Shalom, everybody. Get one more thing going here. All right. Well, this week we pick up with vaYiqra chapter 18, verse 21. Last week we left off with verse 20, which was the command not to have a relationship, intimate relationship. You guys hopefully remember that what I'm talking about here. With your neighbor's wife, which of course is one of the 10 commandments. And it's like, well, why are they saying it again? Well, this is a little more detailed here than the 10 commandment itself. This is actually one of the verses that helps you to understand exactly what that law means. It's detail on that law. It belongs here because of the context of this chapter. And as I said last time, this is the style of writing of the Torah is the epic poetic style. It's poetic, yes, but it's in the epic style of Mesopotamia because all of this came from Mesopotamia. They're using the same exact style in their writing here as was used in I think it's the Epic of Gilgamesh is one of them. There's several of them. The Great Epic, which may be Gilgamesh, I'm not sure. But all of that stuff that came out of Mesopotamia, when you start reading that stuff, particularly if you've ever read the Torah, then you realize these writing styles are absolutely identical. They use the same grammar rules. Umberto Cassuto has a number of books out on that subject itself. He takes it in great detail. He has a commentary on Genesis and a commentary on Exodus, and then he has a booklet and then a book that are completely about that particular subject so that people can understand why the Torah was written in it the way it is. So what he did was completely and utterly obliterate the idea that there's the J document and the Y document and because there was this theory that came out in the 1800s by a non-scholar saying that to him it looked like the law had been a compilation of a bunch of different versions of the law that had all been pulled together, and that's why there's all these repeating things and all that. And Cassuto completely has proven that wrong. This book was written in exactly the style of the time. All of the repeating is for a specific reason. So the reason why this law is being repeated is because it goes by, what's the word I'm looking for here? I'm not thinking of it. By its connection to the subject, so since the subject is basically sexual deviance, the deviancy, I should say, then that law is going to be brought back up because it connects to the subject. It has nothing to do with chronological order. That simply does not exist, not even in the Hebrew Bible. It doesn't even exist in the New Testament. Oh, but what about, so-and-so begat so? Go take a look at that. It's not in chronological order. It wasn't supposed to be. And it's not a mistake. They did it the way they did it on purpose. There is a reason for it. My mouse is not. Oh, this is not good at all. Hello, wake up, mouse. I'm getting nothing here. And it was working just a minute ago. What on earth am I doing wrong? Hold on, I gotta get over here and take a look at this. Well, the battery seems to be okay. Well, isn't that nice? There's more than one way to do this. May take me a little longer, but we'll get as far as we can. All right, so picking up with verse 21, the very literal translation that we deal with would be and from seed your not give to bring over Moloch or Molech, the way it's spelled here, and not shall dishonor name gods you Yahweh. So this one should be fairly interesting because remember the connection. The reason why this is here is because it's connected to the subject. So a lot of what the sages said is just not going to be right. But they didn't know these rules, these grammar rules. There's no way they could possibly have known these grammar rules. So don't hold a grudge against them over it. Our first word, umi zar aha, and from seed yours. So you've got the zara, the word for seed, which is it's of sowing and planting and stuff like that, and the seed, you know, coming through the ground and that sort of thing. So in a primitive language, few words, lots of different uses for that word. So here we're going to be talking about the physical seed of a man, and they also call your children your seed. So there's the different uses here. And in this particular, I guess I should warn everybody, this is going to be not, X-rated or any of that sort of thing, but it's a very heavy subject matter that we're getting into over this week and next. And if you have kids under the age of 12, you should probably get them out of the room right now. I think 12, personally, I think 12 is plenty old enough for boys and girls. If your kids are a little immature, maybe, at that age, maybe hold off, watch the video, and then maybe talk to them about it. By the way, you remember one of the laws just not too long ago was that you as a parent, this is your job as a parent to teach this stuff to your children. So it doesn't say when you have to teach it. It's when you believe that they're ready for that. And don't kid yourself. Your children are being taught this as early as first grade. So you probably better find a way to talk to very young kids about this if you've got them in public school. It's nasty out there right now. Anyway, so we have the word for seed, and we are talking about semen. And then it says lo, which is the negative article. What's the T-tame. So it's give, to put, to place, to set, to constitute. It's all those different types of things, but I think you get what we're saying if we're talking about a man's semen. So you don't give that. Oop, my mouse moved. I mean, the arrow moved anyway. And then who do you not give it to? Le ha'avir. Well, that's from... oh, doggone it. This is a little harder to do than without a mouse. Things are jumping around on me a little too much. Not quite. Okay, so this is that word to pass over, to cross a stream, to go away, to depart. It's even used to people who die. It's especially used, though, of the wind passing over or upon anything, of waters which overflow their banks, things like that. It'll make sense here in a minute. Let me get on to the next few words. Oh, my goodness. What is it? Boy, this is difficult. Wish I'd known my mouse was going to give out today. Okay, let's see. Oh, so don't give your seed. Okay, so we may not, I guess we're not talking about semen. I thought I looked at this before. I've already forgotten. But it says don't give it la Molech, so don't give it to Moloch. Below, and not to Halel, which is not don't bring dishonor. That's the word for dishonor. Well, yeah, dishonor, I guess, but this is actually the word for perforate, to pierce through. Like, think of a cracker that has little holes in it, that's perforated, or perforated paper, because it's got the little holes in it, tears easier. But if you stab somebody, that perforates them. So that word is used for that idea. And so it's of a wound. And that's where we get the dishonor, because dishonor is a wound. So that's where that idea comes from. I don't know if we've ever actually had that word before. Not a lot to it, but that's it. That should explain it. Then it says Shem. So don't bring dishonor on the name. Don't wound the name or the authority. Could be either one. Uh, Actually, it's both in this case in Hebrew. Eloheha, the name of your God, or the authority of your God. And since we're talking about the law, it really should be authority and not name. It's not about bringing dishonor to God's name, although that's part of it. So it's okay if you translate it that way. But it's really more about dishonoring his authority. We're learning about his authority. His law is his authority over our lives. All right, let's see. Come on. Okay, I did. I just thought, oh, did I start the timer? So I did. That's a good thing. This is Ani Yahweh, so I am Yahweh. So our translation is, and do not dishonor the authority of Yahweh by giving your children to sacrifice or bring over, the words of bring over, that's that overflowing bank word and all that, to sacrifice them to Moloch. Did you bringing it over his most of them, his hands stuck out, and that was actually the altar part with a fire underneath it. And the people used to take their kids alive and well and throw them on top of that burning hot thing, and they beat drums really loud and really hard to drown out the sounds of the screams, because the parents pretty much freaked out every time they did something like this. Why would people do that? Well, if you're in a society where everybody believes that their god Moloch is going to punish them for your sins by not bringing, rain that year, your crops fail, disease comes in, it'll be your fault. And you and all your family will be killed over it. So there was incentive for people to do this. It wasn't just people just wanting to kill their kids. Anyway, that's the whole Moloch thing. The Jewish Study Bible says the following, and I quote, "The inclusion in this chapter of the prohibition of Moloch sacrifice," and then they say, see chapter 20, verses 1 through 5, and they put an N after it. I have no idea what that means. It says, is unexpected. The reason why they wrote this is because the subject is sexual sin. Think about that. That's where we are. So what does Moloch sacrifice have to do with anything, right? What does it have? Why would they put this here? Well, perhaps it should be suggested that maybe Moloch's sacrifice is here being used for abortion because of sexual sin. You guys follow what I'm saying here? Because, I mean, the Jewish Study Bible is first, well, what's this doing here? What's throwing your babies into basically a fire and, not hearing them scream because the drums beating, loud enough to cover up the screaming sound, have to do with sexual impropriety. Well, you were just told not to have an affair, if you will, with your neighbor's wife. You've been told all these other people that you're not to have relationships with, and now it's saying something about Moloch. Do you get it? You don't go and have an abortion because you got somebody else's, the woman's not to have an abortion just because she had an affair and got pregnant. That's the connection. Okay, now verse 22 says, very literally in English, and male not shall lay down from lay down, woman abomination she. Now this is where it gets kind of icky, but the icky doesn't really hold up to scrutiny. And we're going to have to go through this one word at a time. I have to be real careful about this because there's a couple of very confusing things here. If you're a translator, you got a problem. And I had a big problem with this one. It says ve'et, so and then it's a pointer. The et doesn't mean anything. Zachar, which sounds like Zachaz in the garage. Remember that thing from way back when my wife and I were trying to learn the Hebrew language? A very long time ago, she came up with that idea because the word Zachar is to remember, right? Well, this is a sound-alike word. It is not the same word as remember. It just sounds like that word. We have that in English. I'm going to meet you at the, what do you call that? Meat factory? That's not right. Slaughterhouse and pick out some meat, right? So you have M-E-E-T and you have M-E-A-T. One is I'll meet you, M-E-E-T, and we'll eat meat, M-E-A-T. So they're sound-alike words, and this is a sound-alike word, zachar. So it's not remember, it's the word for male as opposed to female. And then it's and male, and it's in singular, not plural. Lo, so that's the negative. He's not going to do something, so what's it going to be? It's ti shechav. What? You can't lay down and go to sleep? The primary stock here has the power of bending, inclining oneself, to lay oneself down, of those who are going to sleep, to lay oneself down to sleep. Right? So this is laying down in a bed, or in my case, leaning back in a recliner and going to sleep, right? So this is what the idea is. And of course, you know that this word is going to be used of a euphemism between a man and a woman. But so far, all we have is that a man's not allowed to lay down and sleep. Then our next word is mishkeveh. You can't lay down from laying down. It's just the same. I think it's, let me look at this. Okay, so the shachav was our last word, well, the root of it anyway. And this is shachav. Yeah. They're the same word. So you can't lay down from laying down. This is where it gets weird. And this is where we went off the rails. Okay, so this, oh, darn, got it. Punched a button and it went way out of the way. So this is, not far enough up. A laying down, both for sleep and from sickness or from sex. It's from the root, shachav, the word we just had. It is the same word. It's not that it's from the root. This is wrong. This is a mistake on the part of Gesenius. It's a mistake on the part of just about every concordance you'll ever find. It's a mistake. These are the same words. They are the same root word, and something has been added to this word. In this case, the mem has been added to the front of this word. It ends in the plural form, but beyond that, from laying down, and the laying down would be in plural. Right? So you've got to keep this in mind, this mem. It's, hit the wrong button, sorry. It's very important. Then it says Isha. So the man will not lay down from laying down with a woman. That's what it just said. So you got to get up and go do some work. No. To'eva. It's an abomination. What's an abomination? It's to be unclean, but it's really bad unclean, right? So they use the word abomination to the tav in the beginning of it makes it more. Can I say worser? It makes it very bad. So we use the word abomination, but it's of being unclean. You've broken God's law. You are now unclean. But it's beyond that. It's beyond, there's something physical going on here. So it's a physical uncleanness. It's not just that God told you not to lie, which he did. That's one of the 10 commandments if you don't know. What? They doesn't say that. Well, don't kill, don't commit murder. In Hebrew, that's also not to commit a lie, because to lie to somebody is to murder the truth, and that's biblical. That's not just something we got from it later on. That's the meaning from the word. Remember, one word, lots of different uses and meanings and things like that. So you can't get away from that. A lie is a murder. It's a murder of the truth, and that's bad. So anyway, that's what we have going on here. It's of a physical uncleanness, and then it says he, which is the word for it or she, feminine. Okay, so here's what it actually says: a male shall not have sex with someone after having sex with another woman. It is unclean. Now, this is the one that's supposed to be, it's the foundation of all Jewish and Christian theology about all gay people are going to hell. That's why I'm trying to make this really stand out here, because that's not what it says, literally, right? And we've got a couple of idioms here. It says, "And a male shall not," and then I've got what the idiom means. The idiom means have sex with someone after having sex with another. The idiom is shall lay down from laying down. Shall lay down from laying down means have sex with someone after having sex with another. So this could well be telling a man that he can't go from one woman to the next, because it has nothing to do with a man from a man, right? If we're going to look at this literally, that's what's happening here. Then it says, then I say there is absolutely no connection concerning man to man, men with men. There is no connection here. The words do not exist in the Hebrew text and must be forced into the translation. Here's a note from the Jewish Study Bible, because this is where I went with it years ago when I first took a look at this verse. They say biblical and ancient Near Eastern culture was not familiar with homosexuality in the sense of a defined sexual orientation or lifestyle. According to the biblical evidence, David and Jonathan had no sexual relationship. And why do they say that? Well, because it says that they were Rhea in Hebrew. That means lovers. Well, remember in Hebrew, if you call two men lovers, you're not talking about this sort of a thing. What you're saying is this guy knows that guy better than that guy knows himself, and vice versa. In other words, these guys are very close friends. They've probably been friends their whole life or for many, many, many years. And they just, when the guy's blowing smoke, the other one knows better, right? This is, so it's a very, very close, intimate type relationship, but not in a physical way. That's why they've thrown this in there. They go on to say it acknowledges only the occasional act of male, here's where it gets icky, anal intercourse, usually as an act of force associated with the humiliation, revenge, or subjugation. That was the main one. And that's me saying that. They go on. For the biblical examples, you can look at Genesis 19, 4 through 5, Judges 19, 22. Of the biblical legal collections, only H, and this is very wrong, there is no such thing as H. That's why I said the different uh, writings that were all thrown together to make the law. This is very wrong. Of the biblical legal collections, only H mentions it here in 2013, which is funny because it was written right next to this verse, which is not 2013. Anyway, declaring it to be an abominable act and a capital offense. Oh, yeah, you must be murderized for this thing. So, where does the confusion come from? It is caused by the lack of a chaf. That's looks like a backwards C to people who are looking at Hebrew and don't know what they're looking at. It looks like a C that's been written backwards. And it's because that's not there, and because the mem, which is another Hebrew letter, I don't know what to tell you it looks like, um, but it's a mem, because it's there and has confused the translators from the beginning. They don't get it. So mish keve, which is our first word, it's from lay down. We can compare that to vaYiqra 2013, which says, and a man who lays down with a male from laying down with a woman, they, speaking of the men, are both unclean. They will cut themselves off from the people. And in Hebrew, that's mut, el mut, or mut, yemut. Die, they will die. They will bear their guilt. Their blood is with them, is what it says. That means they will bear their guilt. Now let's look at an example where they actually put the kaf in front of the word, the chaf in front of the word. Ki shecha, right? So there's the chaf in front of the word. As lay down. And it will come to pass as my Lord, okay? As my Lord, the king, lays down with his fathers. In other words, when he's dead and they bury him, they lay him down with his father. So there's your word, as he lays down with his father, because the guy's still alive. So we're not going to say that he has laid down. Don't really want to say that he will, but we're saying as, when that time comes. No, it's not what I meant to say. Not to be understood as he lays down, but rather lays down as, so when he's dead, he lays down as his fathers. That's how it's supposed to be understood. So, and I say that so that you understand that you have to have that chaf to say as a man with a woman, the way they write it in English. You have to have a chaf to do that, and it is not here. Let's compare another verse, Numbers 31:35. And all the humans or all the people, it's the word souls of mankind. Oh, I didn't write down the Hebrew, so I don't know how that was said. Could be Nefesh Adam. I'm not sure what it says. But anyway, the English is, and all, let's just say, people's souls who have not known from laying down with males, all those souls were 230,000. Okay, so we're talking about the women who had not had relationships with any man. And they're obviously using the chaf here as well. So we know that if they were going to say as with a woman or as a woman, that there has to be a chaf. You cannot do this in Hebrew without it. So these women knew their fathers, they knew their brothers, their uncles, their neighbors' boys, male family friends, and male acquaintances. In short, these verses do not say lays down with a man as in the same way as, or or in the same way as. You can say it either way. As he lays down with a woman. It's not there. They are speaking of bisexuality. Men who have sex with women and men. That's what's being said here. They in no way state that homosexuality is a sin. That's never said here. or anywhere else for that matter. The Bible does not say that. Not even your New Testament simply doesn't say that either. If you want to see a correct translation of that, you'll have to buy a copy of Volume 1 of my New Testament translation. Anyway, the uncleanness or abomination is specifically of a male going from a woman to a man. That's what's being said. From a male, from laying down to a woman. So it's, oh gosh, I hope you guys are following this. This verse is here because of the association of the law against having sex with a menstruating woman. Blood. I don't want to go any deeper than that. If you guys know anything about age, you know why guys should not get together in a very specific way. And I don't want to say any more about it than that. So what I'm saying to you here is this is not a law against homosexuality. There is none in the Bible. None whatsoever. Anyone who tells you otherwise doesn't know what they're talking about. They're not a translator worth peanuts. Sorry. Anyway, let's move on to 23. And in all livestock not give copulation yours to unclean her or it in her, and woman not shall stand to face his animal to lie down her perversion it is perversion. Again, sexual deviancy. This is the things that you're not supposed to do. So we have uvachol and all and any behema. That's the word for livestock. I know it gets translated as beast in your older Bibles, but I would hope that the newer ones say livestock because that's what that means. Lo titain, not give. It, like earlier. Good Lord. Shechav tacha. Your copulation, not real sure how that's really supposed to be pronounced, but hopefully you know what that word means. If you don't, look it up. Then we have le tama, which is to be unclean. That's going to make you unclean. That's very nasty. And then it says ba, which is the bait followed by the hay. It's not actually a word. It's just putting two, if you will, letters together. I guess literally it is two words, but it's different than we think of. We don't think of spelling out a word with one letter, right? Well, except for the word I guess we do that. I guess we do have something like that. I don't know where we would have two letters, one after the other, and that would be two different words, though. And that's kind of what's happening. That is what's happening here. So the words are either with her or in her. Ah, darn. The thing jumped a little too far. And then I had to hit it 3 times to make it back up. So it's vaYisha. Well, it's literally and woman or and wife. It's the word mostly used for wife, but used for woman quite often in Hebrew, even in the biblical. That's not working. Oh. And then we have shechabta, which is the copulation letama. So the copulation is going to make her unclean because this does end in the feminine here. I think I backed up. Yeah, this thing backed up and I didn't realize it. So those are this. We'd already gone over those words. This is lo ta'amod. Ahmad. Remember a guy named Ahmad Rashad? You football fans out there. That's to stand, to be firm, to be immovable. So not shall stand because it has the tate added to the front. It's also feminine because of the tate. Not shall stand. That doesn't mean it has only to do with women. Um, Gender is very different in Hebrew than it is in modern languages because read any Hebrew text and you're going to see them speaking about masculine things using the feminine gender. I don't actually know why they do that, and I don't think anyone else does either. Sorry, that's not something that I've come across in all my studies of grammar and linguistics. I've never come across that. So anyway, in this case, it does say leap nay, so she's not going to. This is the word from the face. You're not going to stand before. So we've got ama, stand before. Hopefully you understand this is an idiom. With the guy, it said he can't lay down, and with the woman, it's saying she can't stand before. So it's an idiom. Hopefully you understand. I'm having to make this clicking sound. I don't know if you guys are picking it up or not. This says behema, which is your word for livestock. It says with live. No behemoth. No, that's not with. That's just the word for livestock. Le riva, to lie down with. So we'll get to it. Tevel, that's perversion. That's profanity. It's pollution. It's against Torah. It's all of those things. It's evil. Then it says who, which means it is evil. So here's my translation. And do not give your copulation to any livestock. It is unclean. And woman shall not stand before an animal to have sex, to lie down, have sex. It is perversion. It is evil. It is nasty beyond belief, for lack of a better way to say that. Okay, so we have verse 24. Not shall be unclean they in all these, for in all these will be unclean they, the nations that I send from faces you. So it starts with all, which is an obscure use of the negative article. It's usually low, but and honestly, I have my doubts as to whether this is really supposed to be used this way. I mean, it makes sense that this would be the negative article, but why would they use the word all? That's not normally what this means. But there are a lot of examples of this being translated as the negative article. So maybe it's just another way to do it. It could be that. And I think most people would say it almost assuredly is that, but I've just seen too many verses where that doesn't really work. It does here, but most of the time, well, not most of the time, but many times, that just simply doesn't work. And so I think there's more to it that we just don't know. That's all I'm really saying, or trying to say. Then it says, Ti ta meu. Tama, do you hear it? You shall not be unclean. They shall not be unclean, because this is the plural. They shall not be unclean. Bechol, in any of these. So it's saying in any of these things, in all these, it's like a summation. We've gone through all of the laws on the deviancy, and so it's the people are not going to be allowed to do any of these. They don't be found to be unclean in any of this stuff. And then it says ki, because, or for bechal, in any of these, or in all of these, nit meu, you'll be unclean. And that is in plural. So it's everyone who does this will be unclean, if you will. Hagoyim, the nations. That's okay. Let's talk about that word a minute. This will be fun. Little side note, won't charge any extra for. In the Hebrew Bible, in what the part that of the Bible that the Christians call the Old Testament, that is so utterly and completely wrong that it's horrifying how wrong that is. It's not the there are no Old Testaments. There's no New Testaments. There's an old sacrifice and a new sacrifice, but they were translated the wrong way. Everybody else follows suit. The next thing you know, there became an old and a new. The Jews have been jumping up and down saying, no, there's not. Even the Jews that believe in Yeshua, no, there's not, because there isn't. But hey, it's written in English, so it must be true. So anyway, this is Ha-Goyim, the Gentiles, right? This idea didn't exist back in this time. This was of the word for nations, of the nations. And what do they mean by nations? Every nation other than Israel was goyim at this time. Now, by the time you get to about 100, 150 years before the Common Era, so 150 BCE, or BC, I guess is how the old way of saying it. Instead of AD, it's BC. It's BCE is what we say now. There's a reason for that. But anyway, you had the Maccabean revolt. And if you read the revolt, I don't remember if it's in the actual Maccabean writing, if it's in the letter of the Maccabees, or if it's in the letter that Josephus wrote about the Maccabees. I don't remember where I found this, but it's in one or the other or both. I don't remember. Just have to get a copy and read them for yourself. But you're going to have to read it in the Greek. You can't read that in English and get this because of the translation. But they kept calling Jews goyim. So this was a new thing. I've never seen it go back any further than the Maccabean revolt. Because Judah Maccabee, the guy they called the hammer and all that, he started calling Jews that did not live according to the law Gentiles. Goyim. Started using that word of them. And thus began one of the biggest, if not the biggest, perversion that you'll find in the New Testament. Because in order for Christianity, well, let's say Catholicism, Christianity did not exist until the 1500s. 1500s. Now, what you had before that was Catholicism. But Catholicism does not exist in the 1st century CE. It did not exist until after Constantine won his war. So you can't have Catholicism until almost into the mid 300s. And even then, they didn't have a name for this religion. They just kept saying they needed a Catholic religion. They needed a Catholic religion. Why would they say they needed a Catholic religion? Because Catholic is the Latin word for universal. So when you read the translation, it usually says we need a universal religion, which is a good translation because that's what Catholic means. 100 years after they began that in the mid 300s, in the mid 400s, they decided to just call themselves Catholic, universal. In other words, we're a culmination of all of the paganism. All the pagan religions out there have come together as one universal religion. It had nothing to do with Judaism. It is not Judeo-Christian. There is no such thing. At least not back then. So the Gentile, in order for this group of people to create this religion, they needed a Bible. So they took what is now called the Old Testament, the Jewish Bible, but it didn't help them much. It was because none of them spoke Hebrew. Let's be real, and there wasn't a lot of copies of the Greek translation at the time. Some people had it, most didn't. But what they did have was a lot of copies of the letters written by the Talmidim of Yeshua. These were Jewish rabbis writing letters to other Jewish rabbis concerning matters of the Jewish religion. The Jewish religion fully expected Mashiach to show up in the time that Yeshua did, because it says so in Daniel and it says so in Yirmiyahu. And people who tell you that's not true are either lying through their teeth or they're woefully ignorant of what those books say. So the Jews as a whole were expecting Mashiach in this time. And whether you want to believe it or not makes no difference. But if you don't believe that Yeshua was Mashiach, you have a couple of things as a Jew that you have to grapple with. One, if Yeshua or somebody other than Yeshua in that very time frame, if Mashiach, let's put it this way, if Mashiach did not show up in that time frame of Yeshua, it had to be in his time frame, because that's the only person that we know of in that time frame that stands out. I mean, there are a lot of people born in that time frame, but the only one that stands out in any writings that we know of is Yeshua. Yosheva, where did that come from? Josephus actually wrote about Yeshua. So he was a standout kind of guy. He stood out, right? But if Mashiach did not come during that time period, then Daniel, Yirmiyahu, and every other prophet, which is almost every last one of them in our Hebrew Bible, are bald-faced liars. I'm not willing to accept that. Mashiach came in the time of Yeshua. So you figure out who he is and where he went and what he did. Find out if you can find somebody who did a more biblically accurate job than Yeshua, and let me know. I'm open to it. I think it was Yeshua. I doubt you're going to change my mind. I've spent an awful lot of my life studying this. So I accept that. Am I Messianic? Not in the least. I am not Messianic. I am Jewish. And we Jews know to expect that Mashiach came when Yeshua came. Right? Anyway, so it's at that time, the team in Yeshua's time were Jews. Every time your New Testament letters talk about the Gentiles, they are talking about Jews. Jews who are not from Israel. They're from, say, Tarsus. They're from Italy. They're from all around these other nations. It's where the word comes. It literally means, especially here, nations. So you got this group comes 300 years after the fact, and they want to place themselves in this book. And so they say, oh, look, we're the Gentiles. No, you're not. You're not Jews. Anyway. So in this time frame, we're talking about non-Jewish nations, okay? I better jump back in here and try to finish. Oh, I did something really bad. I just clicked on something I shouldn't have. Okay, got lucky though. The thing is still there. So we have, I can't get that lined up right. Still can't get that lined up right. There we go. Asher ani, that I meshalach, that I shaliach, shalihim, apostle, sent one, that I send. Well, this is really from sending because they've added the mem from it. Then it says, me panehem, from faces you. Well, this is like you all of you guys. So that I send from your faces. So God's saying that all of these nations that I'm driving out away from you, right? Hopefully you remember where we were before I went off on that tangent. So our translation is real straightforward. You shall not be unclean in any of these things. That's all of that stuff from verse 1 all the way till the previous verse. So this is the summing it up. You shall not be unclean in any of these things, for all the nations which I send away from you are unclean in these things. So all of the nations that were sent out from before the Jews on their way into the promised land, into Israel, those people were doing this type of stuff, all of these things. So God's saying, I'm sending those people away from you. Don't do it, because I'm sending them away. There's a reason for that. And next week we get off of this nasty stuff and we get into a little bit more interesting stuff, and may even actually finish the chapter. It's hard to say with me. I go off on my tangents, you never know. But I am out of time. I'm going to have to say shalom shalom, you guys. And remember, I'm by myself, so you'll be seeing me walk across the room and all that kind of stuff. It is what it is.
The blessing, vaYiqra. Yavarecha Yahweh v'yish merecha. Ya'er Yahweh panai v'lecha v'hunecha. Yisa Yahweh panai v'lecha v'yasim lecha shalom. And in English, may Yahweh cause you to lie down so that you may rest. May he touch and caress you. May he prepare you for what is ahead. May he watch over you. May he keep you from harm. May he cause goodness to grow in you and take away the bad. May he arrange your life and cause you to flourish. May he cheer you up and gladden your heart. May he cause his light to shine through you. May he show you tenderness, favor, and love in his presence. May he show you kindness and be delicate towards you. May he show you his generosity, mercy, compassion, and desire for you as it comes forth from the depths of his soul. May he lift you out of your pit and deliver you from the things that hold you prisoner. May he draw you to his chest and cast his eyes on yours. May he show you his love and desire for you as he cradles you in his arms. May he bear your punishment and pardon you of your sin. May he take you for his bride. May he establish a foundation in you. May he place his name on your heart and mind and make your body his temple. May you be his treasure. May you always be on his mind. May he draw you near and comfort you when you are afraid. May he assure you there is nothing to fear because he is with you. May you and all that concerns you be at peace because he is your friend. Amen.